How did a sickly, underestimated teenager become the most powerful man in Roman history? This isn't just a story about a man who ruled Rome. It's about a man who redesigned the very concept of power itself. Today, we're dissecting the life of Augustus, the mastermind who transformed a republic into an empire. Not with brute force, but with unparalleled genius. He was born Gaius Octavius, a boy from a respectable but not top-tier family. His great-uncle was Julius Caesar, and that connection would change everything. But at first, no one saw him coming. He had a modest background, frail health, and absolutely no military reputation. He was the kid in the corner, not the heir to the world. Then, on the Ides of March, 44 BC, everything changed. Julius Caesar was assassinated, and the Roman world plunged into chaos. When Caesar's will was read, Rome was stunned. His heir wasn't a seasoned general or a powerful senator. It was his 19-year-old great-nephew, Octavius, whom he had posthumously adopted as his son. Overnight, this teenager, now named Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, was thrust into the brutal, backstabbing world of Roman politics. Everyone, from the powerful general Mark Antony to the orator Cicero, underestimated him. They saw him as a pawn, a boy who could be easily manipulated and then discarded. But they made a fatal mistake. While they all relied on armies, reputations, and brute force, Octavian relied on something far more dangerous. Cold, hard calculation and a terrifying amount of patience. He was playing chess while they were all playing checkers. His first move was a masterstroke of political pragmatism. He knew he couldn't take on the established powers alone. So, he formed an alliance with his chief rivals, the charismatic Mark Antony and the wealthy General Augustus. This was the Second Triumvirate, a three-man dictatorship designed to hunt down Caesar's assassins and restore order. But their version of order was brutal. They launched a wave of political purges, known as proscriptions, drawing up death lists of their enemies and confiscating their wealth. It was a bloodbath that eliminated thousands of senators and knights, consolidating the triumvirate's power and filling their war chests. But this alliance of convenience was always doomed to fail. The three most powerful men in Rome couldn't share the world forever. Lepidus was quickly sidelined, leaving two titans standing, Octavian in the west and Mark Antony in the east. Antony, now allied and famously involved with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, represented a different vision for the future Eastern-style monarchy. Octavian, ever the master of propaganda, seized on this. He painted Antony as a decadent traitor, a man who had abandoned his Roman heritage for a foreign queen. The conflict was inevitable. It all came to a head in 31 BC at the naval battle of Actium. It wasn't just a battle, it was the final, bloody chapter of the Roman Republic. Octavian's fleet, commanded by his brilliant general Agrippa, crushed the combined forces of Antony and Cleopatra. They fled back to Egypt, and a year later, both were dead by suicide. At just 32 years old, Octavian was the undisputed master of the Roman world. The Republic, after nearly 500 years, was effectively dead. Now, he faced his greatest challenge: how to rule as an absolute monarch in a city that despised the very idea of a king. This is where we see the true genius of Augustus. Anyone could seize power through violence, but holding it, legitimizing it, and making it last for generations, that required something else entirely. Octavian understood that Romans would never accept a king. The title Rex was poison. They had driven out their last king centuries ago and prided themselves on their republican liberty. So, he didn't call himself king. He didn't even take the title of dictator, which had been tarnished by his own adoptive father. Instead, he performed a brilliant piece of political theater. In 27 BC, he went before the Senate and announced he was restoring the Republic, handing all his powers back to them. And the Roman people, Of course, it was an illusion. The grateful Senate, terrified of another civil war, convinced him to accept a range of powers and a new name. Augustus, meaning the revered one. He also took the title Princeps, which simply meant first citizen. It was humble, unassuming, and utterly deceptive. On the surface, the Republic continued. The Senate still met, elections were held, and magistrates served their terms. But in reality, every critical decision, every military command, and every ounce of financial control passed through Augustus's hands. He held the ultimate authority, but he hid it behind the familiar facade of the old system. This was his core lesson, a principle that would be studied by leaders for centuries. The most effective form of absolute power is the one that appears invisible. He ruled not as a monarch, but as the benevolent guardian of the state. But how did he make this invisible dictatorship function? He built systems. He knew that personal power was fleeting, but institutional power could last forever. First, he reformed the military. He transformed the patchwork of loyal to their general armies into a single, professional standing army, stationed on the frontiers. Crucially, the soldiers swore an oath of loyalty directly to him. The emperor, and their pay and retirement benefits came from his treasury. Their allegiance was no longer to the state, but to the man. Next, he tackled the chaotic mess of provincial administration. He centralized control, appointing loyal governors who answered to him, and created a fairer, more efficient tax system. This not only stopped the rampant corruption of the late Republic, but also ensured a steady stream of revenue flowed directly to the central government, his government. And then there was his mastery of propaganda. Augustus was perhaps the greatest brand manager in history. He understood that power wasn't just about holding armies. It was about shaping perception. He launched a massive building program in Rome, transforming the city of brick into a city of marble. Grand temples, forums, and public buildings all broadcasted a message of peace, prosperity, and divine favor. Statues of him and his family were everywhere, portraying him not as a warlord, but as a pious, fatherly figure. Poets like Virgil and Horace were patronized to write epic works that celebrated his new age. He crafted a powerful narrative that he had saved Rome from chaos and ushered in a golden era. He wasn't a despot, he was the savior of Rome. The result of all this was the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For the first time in generations, the Mediterranean world was largely free from major wars. Stability brought economic growth. Trade flourished. Roads were built, and infrastructure expanded across the vast empire. A single legal and institutional order brought a sense of predictability and security. People could travel, trade, and live their lives without the constant fear of civil war. But we must never forget the foundation of this peace. It was a peace bought and maintained through absolute authority. It was peace through control. The freedoms of the old republic had been traded for the security of the new empire. For most ordinary people who had suffered decades of bloodshed and uncertainty, it seemed like a very good trade. But greatness always casts a shadow. Behind the marble facades and poetic praises, the Augustan regime was ruthless in its suppression of dissent. Political opposition was not tolerated. Those who spoke too freely or were suspected of conspiracy often met grim fates. Even his own family was not immune. He famously exiled his only daughter, Julia, and his granddaughter, also named Julia, for their scandalous public behavior, which he saw as a threat to his carefully crafted image of moral renewal. One can only imagine the personal loneliness behind the imperial grandeur. He held the world in his hands, but was isolated by the very power he had so brilliantly accumulated. It raises a timeless question. Can absolute power ever remain truly humane? Or does the weight of it inevitably crush the humanity of the one who wields it? When Augustus died in 14 AD after ruling for over 40 years, He left behind a legacy that literally shaped the world. He had created the Roman imperial model, a system of government that would endure in some form for nearly 1,500 years. His methods became a blueprint for future autocrats. From Napoleon to Mussolini, leaders who sought absolute power studied his techniques. The careful management of public image, the use of legal and traditional forms to legitimize radical change, and the masterful blend of soft power and hard domination. Augustus's most enduring principles of control were clear. Control the narrative, maintain the appearance of legitimacy, and make sure your absolute power is wrapped in the comforting blanket of security and tradition. In the end, Augustus didn't rule through fear alone. He ruled through perception. He understood a profound truth about human nature. People don't just want freedom, they want order, security, and a belief that they are part of something great. He gave them all three. He convinced the Roman people that his rule was not a loss of liberty, but a guarantee of safety. He showed the world that the greatest ruler is not the one who terrifies the people, but the one who convinces them that obedience is security. The story of Augustus is a timeless lesson in the architecture of power, and it's a story that continues to echo in the corridors of power today. Thanks for watching. If you want to keep exploring the titans who forged our world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like us to dissect next. See you in the next one.